Let's bring in Jane Lomax-Smith, also a candidate for the role of Lord Mayor. Good morning, Jane Lomax-Smith.
Good morning.
What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's a tragedy because, frankly, the previous government obviously left a mess with the new Women's and Children's Hospital, but it's a difficult problem to resolve. It's clearly not a big enough site. It was never a big enough site. But what worries me about this decision is that it will irrevocably destroy the format and the style of the parklands. It trashes our heritage conservation requirements. And if you're going to have a $3 billion development, quite frankly, 1 or 2% buying the land is not excessive. And if you're spending $3 billion, you shouldn't be nitpicking about being mean and taking what is free land. The problem with this site is, of course, that the previous government rezoned it as a health and biomedical precinct. And the question really is why the council hasn't been campaigning and involved in this decision. I'm appalled by it and obviously don't support this development site, but I understand the problem the government's got. But what they're saying is this is 22 hectares they're going to appropriate for a development, and they want room to expand, which means that at the end of the day, this is just the thin end of the wedge, and we'll end up with maybe 30 hectares of development on our parklands, and that's irreplaceable land. And if we're really going for World Heritage listing, this is a nonsense. You can't keep using it as cheap development land. It's not free land. It's not cheap. It's priceless. It's irreplaceable. It's one of the only things that is unique about Adelaide.
You're a former member for Adelaide, a former minister in a Labor government, also a working health professional. Do you have other views about where the hospital should go?
Well, I've been in more hospitals than most people in this debate, and I can tell you that if you're in any heritage or ancient site, whether New York, London or Paris, the hospitals are not all touching each other. They're quite spread apart. I like new hospitals. I'd love a new hospital. Clearly the designs were inadequate, the ones that were left by the previous government. And I think that it's a good idea that there's a redesign. But taking up parklands is not the option. It's really a forced debate. People say, oh, do you support health or do you support heritage? Well, in a civil society, we should support both. And in a society that values both the healthcare and the values of its community, then a government should see that the heritage and the history of our town is also important. And our capital city is the heart of the country, of our state.
So is there a spot that's better?
Well, I would be very happy with somewhere close by. I would have thought there's plenty of land on Port Road. The University of Adelaide sold a very large development site. There's a brewery site. It wouldn't take a rocket scientist to start looking around for another place. But clearly, if you have a review panel that looks at 6 sites, and one of those sites is the parkland, of course you've got Treasury officials in there. Of course they're going to say, oh, that's a cheap little place, let's go there. Really, you have to start with the right parameters, and you have to understand, why is the Adelaide City Council missing in action? Why, when they knew this work was going on and they have a Parklands Authority, weren't they in there from the beginning arguing that the parklands are not the only option? And
Okay.
I think that's one of the things missing.
All right. Jane Lomax-Smith, thank you.